Welcome to the Gun Channel. My name is Mike. Today's video Pewjitsu podcast is with Matt Melancon. He is U.S. Army retired and has an incredible story. And this podcast covers it from beginning, middle to the end. It's an honor to meet him through the podcast and to be a part of this discussion. I hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you back real soon.
I don't know if there is a better conversation than llamas.
So I just had this hilarious image of me with like my night vision, like stalking a herd of sheep and just like running up, and in the night just hearing just like bah! And like knuckling it. And then like a llama comes out of left field and tries to like bite my leg.
Just let me
I know, right? It's so llama! And then like a llama tries to bite my leg, but it's a prosthetic. So there's just like levels of confusion happening.
Yeah, there's no
confusion and anger.
No reward. No reward at all. Well, good to see you again, Matt. Good to talk to you, man.
Really excited to be here.
Yeah, this is awesome. I've been talking you up all day now. Full transparency, this is the third podcast that we're recording today, and we've talked about you. We've talked you up on both of the previous shows.
Yeah, no pressure, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
The legend of Matt.
Overhyped. I'm going to be like Tenet. Overhyped and just so confusing.
With me here, Matt, is Jessica and Mike. They're sitting across from me, and they're a dazzling duo. They are the owners and chief photographers, videographers of Evoke Studio, and Mike across the table has a killer channel on YouTube called The Gun Channel, of all things, and he does some really great reviews and does a lot of fun stuff on there, including tactical game stuff. They shoot all of our skirmishes, and they're just they're awesome. They're awesome folks, and my close personal friends. Mike is sort of my Yoda. So whenever I'm getting all pissed off,
Which means I'm short and green.
Yes. Hopefully not offended.
Yeah, he calms me down when I need it, man. So, but we did talk about you this in the last two episodes, and I threw
don't believe the tweets.
So many superlatives, and we just went overboard. And I was gushing for you.
Aww.
So you're out in Utah. I didn't kind of get like where you were relative to where we were at the range a couple weeks ago. Whereabouts are you living?
So I was actually just awarded a beautiful home by an incredible nonprofit in Heber, Utah, which used to be a sleepy little town for the diehard Mormons.
Oh,
but now the New York Times just blurbed about us as like one of the top 10 spots in America to move.
No way.
Oh,
That's
no.
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. There goes the neighborhood.
That's not good.
We are suffering from some severe left turn Tuesday.
Yeah.
From Friday to Monday, there is no left turns. It is all right hands. Right hands and lights.
What was the what's the background on you getting awarded a house? That's amazing. And who's this organization?
So the organization is the Carrington Foundation. They are so incredible, very humble, low-key, private organization that they're what separates them apart is they abhor the donkey and pony show of a veteran like me getting awarded a home. It's their goal is to just focus on the veteran, not the press, not the hype, not the all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So we will do a wonderful home warming party once everything settles down a little bit more. But I used to live in Salt Lake City. I've been living in Salt Lake City for the past 5 years. Heber is you drive into the mountains right past Park City, but you just kind of keep going an extra 15 minutes. And it's a beautiful spot.
We'll be there tomorrow.
Yes.
Sounds good.
They're branding themselves as like the adventure capital, and it's very poignant.
It sounds
paddleboarding and mountain biking, and they're trying to put in like a veteran military ski resort up here, which has me just really excited because that's just right up my alley.
Oh, yeah.
So really excited about that. But that's where
I went to Park City. My daughter's I went to Park City probably 15 years ago, and it was pretty awesome. It was really beautiful. We visited Olympic Park there, which was it was really, really, really nice. Well, that's great. How long ago did you move into the house? What's that?
November.
Oh,
yeah, I asked the foundation to let me celebrate my first Thanksgiving, and we moved heaven and earth and made it happen. And, yeah, it's just very surreal. My very first home. Little bit of backstory. I mean, we'll kind of like start in the middle, and I love it. That's how I do my speaking gigs. Yeah, when I was getting put back together in Texas, a lot of people are like, "Hey, you have this beautiful benefit of this housing grant. You should really use it." And I had no idea where I wanted to end up in life. So I just sat on it for a really long time, and it doesn't cover the cost of all of it, but the foundation is able to use that and really help empower people like me.
That's great.
And reward me a home. And yeah, it's just been surreal. So
congratulations.
It's also been drinking out of the fire hose. It's just the joy of the home ownership.
That's wonderful. Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't want to like jump right into your backstory.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm sure you're used to it. I kind of want to like kind of get the whole picture of you because
make it organic.
There's so much. There's a lot to you, man.
We're not storyboarding this. Nobody's storyboarding this.
It was it was just a super pleasure to run into you, to watch you compete, to watch you operate in your natural element. But it was more like the energy that you exude and just watching the way that you interact with people that was attractive for me. And I was like, this guy is like walking on sunshine over here. It's just incredible. Now you just referenced your speaking engagements. I saw some photos of you doing some public speaking engagements, but can you tell me more about what you do when you go do those things?
My main goal when I do speaking engagements is to emphasize the story of identity loss. So I speak as a disabled veteran, but I don't really like going too far into that. I do enough to give context and appreciation, but it's just such a small slice of the overall story and my journey from who I was to where I am to where I'm going. It's just the story of identity loss. And I think if anybody is able to just be a student of silence for even just a moment, they can identify with having been so proud of being something, and then suddenly you have no, right? But not even, you don't feel like you have any claim to that anymore. You know?
You're an imposter of some kind.
Exactly. It's just, so that's mainly what my speaking is. I wouldn't say I got on the circuit of speaking, but I would say speaking 8 or 9 times a year. The thing about making it as a professional motivational speaker or something like that, first of all, I just don't really care for the term motivational speaker. I don't really care for the phrase of like inspiration. They're pretty hollow once you're so inundated with it. But seeing the circuit and seeing the people who really excelled, they had this ability to like decouple themselves from their own story and treat that story as a product. And my story is still being developed. It's still ongoing. And I was never able to decouple that because I wasn't done with it.
Yeah, they say that in order to really be able to have something to say about it, you have to be all the way through it and have to have had enough time to wade through the muck of it. So if you're still going through it, then how could you possibly? Right.
And it's just like that expression, no work of art's ever done, merely abandoned. Like I just still haven't been able to abandon what it is I'm working on.
Yeah. And there will be some information that I provide about you in the show notes, and we're going to get into the details of who you are and how you became disabled. But I think it's a super important thing for military, for law enforcement, and for other walks of life or vocations that becomes your identity. That time when either, in my case, I retired from law enforcement, I no longer was able to identify as a law enforcement officer, and so there was a hole in my life from that. And then guys such as yourself that become disabled through your career in the military, there are important takeaways and things for people to learn when it comes to identities and feeling that you no longer have claim to that identity or stake in it anymore. That's a super powerful topic that a lot of people could benefit from, for sure.
Right.
You were in the Marine Corps?
No, I was in the Army. I'm
sorry if I offended you.
In the leg. My favorite joke is I had plenty of daddy issues for the Corps. I just couldn't do the pull-up.
Oh man. Nick was here. Nick works with us here at Tradecraft, and he was on the first two shows of the day, and he was a Marine, so he would have appreciated that one.
Right.
It was
the damn pull-ups.
Who cares? They're overrated.
Yeah, that's what kept me from it, you know. No, I was a U.S. Army infantryman.
Okay, great. And then you were in a combat scenario somewhere.
Yeah. I joined the Army in 2008, and fresh out of high school, and I love telling the joke like,
man, you're a young dude. You're a young guy.
I know. And I was in southern Utah, in Cedar City, Utah, and I just hated the wind and how nothing ever happened. And so I joined the Army to see the world. My first duty station was Fort Riley, Kansas. And
seeing the world.
Oh,
with
man.
Lots of wind.
Oh, the only place in the world you can run on a quarter-mile track and have a headwind the whole way.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And then, so I was with the 1st ID out of Fort Riley. I was a saw gunner when I first showed up to my unit because I was the only one who could carry it.
Big and strong.
And then one day, there's an expression, you can be smart or you can be strong. And I was super, super strong. I had a really good time that first year. I tell people how sorry I am because I feel like I caused global warming by doing so many push-ups that I pushed the planet out of its alignment. I thought I was funny. A lot of people didn't.
Did you play sports in high school? Did you go in like as a jock or as an athlete?
No, I was just this weird, nerdy kid from Utah. Not a lot of people from Utah joined the active duty military.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people had met. They're like, is this what Mormons are like? It was a lot of fun. And then one day I showed up to work, and they're like, pack your shit, you're out of here. And I'm like, I've just been trying so hard. And I don't know what I did wrong, but okay. And they're like, go report to the headquarters. And when I showed up, they were like, welcome to the sniper section. And I was like, we've only shot once, and I thought I did okay. And they're like, well, you're the only guy who can still do you're the only private who can pass a PT test and hasn't gotten a DUI.
Oh my gosh. Good Lord.
We need private. Welcome to the sniper section. We need somebody to carry our batteries for us, you know?
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, so at 19 years old, I'm in the sniper section, and it was a lot of fun. We got to do some really cool stuff like that. I had some pretty strong leadership in that unit, and I deployed to Iraq with that unit. This was in 2009-10, and pretty much all combat operations had stopped. So I never really got to do like sniper stuff. And I wasn't even really trained in full sniper craft just because we knew we were deploying in such a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. That my unit was really just operating on no knowledge. So we did practice some urban sniping and range estimation, stuff like that. But the thing I learned the most from that unit was working with all the other different groups of guys and learning how to effectively communicate and also show up, read a room. You know, there's high-ranking officers and sergeants everywhere, but they're not always in charge. You got to identify who's really in charge of this group of people, and how do I influence them to empower me to do my job? You know, because at that time we just didn't have a very good rapport with our unit. We were kind of seen as the sniper section was just seen as divas and such. So it was lessons
you
I've definitely
DUIs learned. And all, so you're so fancy.
Yeah, right. I know. We're divas. You guys can't call an Uber. So it was just, learning those lessons at 19 years old was just invaluable. And those have been really what have carried me beyond my military career. So I went to Iraq and back with them, got back, and just did some brief train up. And then I moved to a unit in Germany. And then with that unit in Germany, I deployed to Afghanistan. And then 3 months into that deployment of Afghanistan was my vehicle drove over a homemade IED with a pressure plate system. And thankfully that day we were kind of operating outside of our normal, and we didn't have this piece of equipment on a truck that, had it been there, the IED would have hit the sweet spot on my truck. And without that piece, the IED was kind of delayed and went off further back behind the truck. And that's what saved my drivers and my life. Just because it was one of the lighter vehicles, much more agile, nimble, but couldn't quite take the hit that the same bigger MRAPs could take. So we both survived the blast. We were the only two inside the vehicle at that time. We were actually driving across a bridge to go pick up the rest of our crew. Thankfully, they were not inside the vehicle.
It was an MRAP that you were in?
Yeah.
Huge vehicle.
And it was launched airborne. And I was manning one of those remote control turrets on top of the truck, and that absolutely saved my back, my hips, everything. Just very grateful to have escaped that attack as unscathed as I did. No traumatic brain injuries. It's just truly a miracle. But when that truck landed and settled, I had maintained consciousness throughout the entire event and just kind of fell back on my training. My door had been blown clean off. And so I just grabbed my service weapon and just leapt from the vehicle ready to get into the fight, thinking I'm just going to land like Charlie Sheen. Instead, just landed inside the crater left by the IED, and I just heard and felt this sickening crunch, and my legs just completely stopped working. And that's when I realized I'm not okay. And thankfully, it wasn't a complex IED attack. There was no secondary. There was no actual assaulting element. It was just I feel like they were still kind of probing our defenses and seeing what we would do. It was our third time getting hit, but I was the first one in my unit to be injured from those attacks. So I was immediately pulled away from the wreckage, and then within 30 minutes, they had a Black Hawk there. And it was...
Did you maintain consciousness the whole time then?
Yeah, the whole time.
Wow. I bet you wish you didn't.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, It's I definitely had my own traumas to work through because of that. That's for sure. That being said, the mind hates gaps, and when there is a gap, it creates the worst scenario possible to fill that gap. And just seeing some of my buddies who were rendered unconscious during their traumatic incidents, Yeah, it's a mixed bag.
So you're pulled out of this wreckage and out of the crater left by the IED that was emplaced, and taken via Black Hawk to a medical center?
Yeah, they unfortunately we weren't able to get me any sort of pain management prior to the Black Hawks getting there. Both of my feet, I didn't understand what was wrong with them. All I know is I could hear my boots stretching from I could hear the leather stretching as my feet were trying to swell inside of them. And I knew my driver was more seriously injured, and he had sustained a collapsed lung and a tib-fib fracture. So I was able to, my pants, I laugh about this because it's been a while, but my pants were just held onto my body by my belt and my boot blouses, this little bungee we put around our ankles. Other than that, they were just shredded from the overpressurization. So my big white hairy butt's just hanging out there. And I'm grabbing what's left of my pants and walking myself like a puppet as my buddies are trying to carry me away from get me off the X. And they just unceremoniously flop me next to the red smoke grenade. And that was the red smoke grenade is kind of when the adrenaline started to wear off. And, I was really frustrated because how many patrols am I going to miss because of this stupid sprained ankle I got?
Right.
Who's going to take my guard shift tonight? Pissed. I have to go back and hang out with all the pogues back at the mega base until they can fix this.
Wow.
And it wasn't until the red smoke grenade started washing across my face and I heard the Blackhawks coming. It's no, you're not okay.
So you just at that point you still had no concept of the status of your injuries, the severity of your injuries, or even if you were going to be able to return back to duty. You were just pissed that you had to miss a shift.
Right. Yeah. We were already short-staffed. Everyone's already tired. And now I'm the guy who's going to miss this shift, and it wasn't until the bird came. That's when I was I remember telling people no, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. And, it was really when that adrenaline started just wearing off and, getting shoved into the, getting shoved into the back of the Black Hawk. And I just just feeling the seatbelt cutter, just seeing the masked flight medics just trying to stabilize me, and just hearing that voice of we got you, bro. It's going to be okay. And when a flight medic tells you it's going to be okay, they're full of shit. And, just feeling that seatbelt cutter, I remember, that's when I was, full on falling into shock. And I just felt it was an invisible coil wrapping itself around my lungs. And I remember my breath just getting shorter and shorter, and I was trying to tell them that, but at the same time I just couldn't breathe. I couldn't talk, the air from the aircraft. And I just remember feeling that seatbelt cutter slide down the center of my back as they cut my uniform off me.
Yep.
And that's when, and then I just felt that massive hit of morphine, and that's just kind of the end of Infantryman Sergeant Matt Melancon, So it was, they got me out of there and got me back to a level 1 trauma center. They stabilized me, got me some blood. That was when I met back up with my driver and he was stabilized. And then that's just kind of where the weird loopy memories of that's started. I spent a week in Germany. I barely remember that as they tried to stabilize me and give me blood from having mounted a fixator on my foot. And to me, my story picks back up in San Antonio, Texas. That's when my memories started making sense to me. And there's an older gentleman next to my bed when I woke up. and he introduced himself as like the orthopedic surgeon for the United States Army, in that my case was very interesting and that he'd be overseeing it personally.
Well, you never want to be interesting.
Worst two things you could hear a doctor say is uh-oh and interesting, you know?
Yeah.
At least in uh-oh, you get a fat settlement. Interesting. So he handed me a picture, and it looked like and my eyes were still focusing, and it just looked like this big fuzzy potato. And then as my eyes like focused, I realized it was an x-ray of my foot. Mm-hmm. And that my calcaneus was shattered, ankle shattered, and dislocated upwards. And, you know, he kind of talked about, he floated the option of amputation. And I was like, what part of I'm an infantryman? Did you not read my file? You know, in order to be a leg, you got to have legs. So I opted for the limb salvage route. And that's where, that would take me on the path of 2 years and 22 surgeries and having an external fixator mounted, 26 pins. I lived out of 6 to 8 orange bottles every day, just methadone, Dilaudid, wheelchair. It was, it was definitely a path not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. So, so that path that you took with the limb salvage, you stuck with it for how long?
Almost 2 years. And it was really tough. I was married at the time, and I had this ideology of, like, I'm fine. I just need you people to do your damn job. Mm-hmm. Fix me so I can go back to being an infantryman.
Yep.
Like, I didn't hit my head. I don't need any of that stuff. Okay, I'm fine. I just have 2 broken feet. You're doctors. Fix it.
This shouldn't be that difficult.
Exactly.
And
so with every surgery, I woke...
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Nope, that's exactly
So it's just every surgery I woke up from, and they were like, you know, we didn't, you know, it's worse than we thought, or we didn't get what we want, you know. No, look, we weren't able to do as much as we hoped. It was just like I just felt like I was getting further and further from that, you know. It's an expression I really don't care for, but it's like, it's going to be a long road. To an infantryman, that's like, I'm visualizing a literal road with a rucksack that I need to walk down, you know.
Yeah,
and at the end of it, exactly, and at the end of it is Sergeant Matt Melancon, the infantryman again, you know. But with these setbacks and these surgeries not performing as well as they'd hoped, like, I haven't even started on this stupid road yet, you know.
How old were you
guys? I was 20, 21.
And you were 20. I mean, like, think about like your brain development at that point. That's so much.
Yeah, the only thing that was solid that you knew was infantry life, and the only thing you had, because you didn't have any sports prior, you weren't part of a team aspect. That was it for you.
Definitely.
So at what point did you say that this this limb salvage route is not going to make it for me? It's not going to cut it. I'm not going to get back.
I wish I could say I had the courage to make that decision, but it was actually kind of foisted upon me. One day I just got back from a really rough physical therapy appointment, and I was trying to walk around, and then I looked back and I was like leaving like bloody footprints in my apartment. And I was like, that's not good. And I was using a walker and everything at that time. Like, again, just completely immobilized still. Over 300 pounds. So I went to the doctors, and they explained to me that MRSA had got set in on the hardware in my foot, and it just completely eaten my entire heel. And so now, basically, they're worried about it being in the bone, and it's time to amputate.
Right.
And I just remember that was just the lowest moment. I would definitely say that was the lowest moment, because I had just received my retirement packet from the Army, you know, just filed for divorce, and now I'm signing amputation paperwork. And so it was just 20, 23 years old, like less than 23 at that time. And it was just, I remember I had my amputation, and then, I got my retirement paperwork, and I just had it all sitting on that uniform in my empty apartment, and even just looking at that uniform, like I said earlier, feeling like you don't even get to have like claim to it, is, even though through my process I was still in the Army, I was still had formations and all this stuff I had to show up for. Like that uniform, even putting it back on, like I was never able to forget that being cut off me.
Mm-hmm.
And it always felt like a costume. So in a lot of ways, like not having to put on that costume, because I just wasn't that man anymore, was a huge relief.
And it was literally ripped off of you. It wasn't like you got to have the choice of taking it off.
I didn't get to hang it up.
Yeah, like in a retirement ceremony, it's a whole nother thing. It's on your call, your terms, and this has got a whole different feel to it. I don't have nearly the trauma that you experienced, Matt.
Competition, man.
I know. I was involved in a pretty bad car accident on duty. I was alone in my car going to pick up another deputy for the night. We were going to go do gang investigations. A unlicensed driver ran a stop sign. I T-boned her. Unfortunately, a few days prior to the accident, this was in an unmarked car. I had a flat tire, and I left the jack on the back seat. So when I T-boned her, the jack became airborne and skipped off the top of my head, and then embedded in the windshield. So now I'm semi-conscious, but I veered across traffic and I got T-boned by UPS that drove me into a pole. And so I was able to get on the radio. I said, gave my ID number, said I'm in an accident, but I gave them the wrong location. I gave them a location several miles away from where I was. And,
right? Where you are in the middle of all this.
Passerby got in the car with me and sees a very badly injured and very badly bleeding deputy and gets on my radio. I can't believe that he picked it up because it was covered in blood. And he says, "I got an injured deputy here, and he's still with us." And I ended up with the dispatch tape later on when I got out of the hospital. But I was cut out of the car. They cut off my uniform. They took my vest from me. They took my belt from me. And I don't remember from the moment I said that I'm in a car accident I don't remember anything after that till the staples were going into my skull. That was all missing. It was all missing. And I too was going through a divorce at that time. And so it was a pretty bad time. So I do understand to some degree the uniform getting cut away from you and not on your terms. Mm-hmm. And the sorrow that came from it too. Right. So the decision was made that you were going to have an amputation. They took, were the legs taken simultaneous or?
No. So this was my left leg, which was actually the better of the two. And being in a limb salvage state, I was able to just kind of like wiggle my way and fall through like everybody's radar. Mm. And it was very strange how I was able to do that. But I basically was just like, again, I was in that like, I'm fine. You guys do your job. I did my job. You do your job. We'll all be fine. Well, now being an amputee in San Antonio, they have this phenomenal facility, and it's a one-stop shop for success. And it's physical therapy, prosthetics, occupational therapy, and an even like very advanced gait training facility all in one building.
Nice.
So in order for me to go get my prosthesis, I had to wheel past the physical therapist. And that's when everyone was like, where has this guy been?
Yeah.
And so I was and just losing all of that, I had nowhere left to hide, and just that cold, hard rock bottom on your back, a hell of a motivator, And I just discovered this incredible community of amputees and just people who are, on this journey that I had, and that's when I realized, like, that road, there is no Sergeant Melancon waiting at the end of it. I don't know what's waiting at the end of it, but I do know that I don't have to walk this road alone,
Yeah.
And, it was brutal. I mean, being as much weight as I had put on, as inactive as I had been, it was a hell of a process trying to get to where, like, my residual limb was very bell-shaped. So it was, like, much bigger at the bottom than my knee.
Right.
So my first prosthetics were just horribly uncomfortable. But I was just able to stay with it. And occupational therapy was incredibly powerful at that time. And they approached me. And they're like, hey, we were going through your records. We see your home of record as Utah. So you must have grown up snowboarding. We have a snowboarding trip that we'd love to take you on. And again, this joyful, happy demeanor, no, not always there. I was livid. I was so hurt and angry. Like, what possesses you to be so ignorant and cruel that you would come up to a man missing his leg and ask if he wants to go snowboarding? Like I just wanted to knife hand their soul from their body, And they just showed me these videos of, like, amputees, like, sitting in little skiing devices and stuff. And, they were just trying to explain to me, like, no, this is something you could actually do. Like, the technology exists
When
now.
you see something like that for the first time, are you, like, do you dismiss it? I know that it, like, pissed you off, but when you're looking at, like, the pamphlet or the video of them doing that, is it hard to say, I'm not like that guy? That's not me.
They are them and I am me.
Yeah.
What do these two have in common?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anything. And it was, I tell people, it was only because, like, Texas was stupid hot at that time that I signed up for this snowboarding trip in early December. Texas had no business being that hot at that time. And it took, I got on an airplane with my prosthetic leg, and granted, my right leg is still severely salvaged. I'm in an exorthotic brace that is, like, made out of carbon fiber, and it's I'm already at a point of just within, like, 6 months of my amputation to where my prosthetic leg was now my dominant leg.
Wow.
Like, that was the good leg. And I'm off all the methadone, all the Dilaudid. I'm barely taking ibuprofen. Like, it's already like, whoa, what have I been doing?
Yeah.
And then just showing up to this international skiing adaptive skiing conference in Colorado and just seeing hundreds of amputees, visually impaired, spinal cord injuries, just shredding this mountain. I mean, massive jumps, race courses.
Nice.
I mean, and it just took that for me to shatter this little reality and world that I had created for myself. And I won't say I had a lot of success on my first endeavor of snowboarding. And to go back to the point, I had never snowboarded growing up in Utah. I'm the second youngest of 9 kids. There was no Park City trip.
Wonderful assumption on their part.
Yeah, right? Yeah, there was no $17 tuna fish sandwiches, family vacations for us, okay? $10 cups of hot chocolate, you know?
Yeah.
So no, I never snowboarded when I had feet, and it was actually, as I was snowboarding, it was the first time I felt like I was able to do what I wanted with my body. It was excruciatingly painful because of my limb salvage, but it was that first time of not feeling as broken as I was used to, you know?
Yep.
And that was just that was the beginning of my whole new life. And I went back to Texas, and I just became so active doing all these different occupational therapy trips. And it just gave my physical therapy and occupational therapy so much more reason. Like now it gave me that why that I had lost.
And that trip so springboarded and reinvigorated your heart and your drive and your determination. But you still were dealing with this salvaged leg.
Yes.
And it was not your dominant leg. Now your prosthetic side is shining and showing you places that it can take you. What was the decision process like? Was it hard, or was it really easy at that point to go, okay, I'm done with this one? Let's.
Oh, I mean, it was pretty clear cut. And I mean, again, I'm right leg dominant, and that was my salvage leg. That was the leg that I landed on when I jumped out of my truck. So that was the leg that had worn the fixator for 9 months. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say it was like an easy decision, but it was just the obvious decision. And I remember that the staff at San Antonio was not happy with this.
Really?
Like, my whole medical team had been working very hard on this. I go on one snowboarding trip. Now I'm trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, we've been trying to rebuild you, man. What's wrong with you?
I know. I had to go through lots of psyche valves. I had to get a urinalysis, everything. They thought I was crazy, and I did not understand the full complications of becoming a bilateral amputee. Before that, I was actually the first elective bilateral amputee, in the sense that like both feet didn't have to be cut off.
Right.
Okay.
So to them, they were like, you don't have to cut this off. You're wanting to cut it off, and we don't think you realize what that is, you know? So no, I had to fight on my hands to become a bilateral, but no, it was very much like, you operate on Fridays. It's Tuesday. What do we need to do?
Let's get this paperwork done.
Uh-huh.
I got a weekend.
And I mean, I've already lost over 70 pounds at this time. I mean, wow. I'm completely off of pain medications, and
so your weight, you said your weight went way up over 300 pounds. Now, you're a pretty big guy. Yeah. You stand significantly taller than I do. What do you weigh right now?
Right now, I'm coming in at 245-ish.
Yeah, you're built like a brick shithouse, man. We stood next to each other, and I'm like 195. I showed my dad your picture. He's
you're lean.
He goes, whoa, look at the size of that guy. He's got to be strong as hell. And I'm like, yeah, he's strong as hell. Are you kidding me? So, so your body weight has come down. You got a new lease on life, and now you got to fight. You got to fight your medical team for a decision that you think is the obvious choice and a no-brainer for your sanity and you know, for the rest of your life. But they eventually really. Oh yeah,
and it's just really cool because they're exactly 1 year and a week apart, my amputations. So yep, it was really cool. And within 32 days of my second amputation, I was in the parallel bars on 2 prosthetic legs.
Cool.
And I walked free of the parallel bars. Oh, and my team of physical therapists was like, take him home. We'll see you on Monday. Yeah. You know?
Like,
it was just...
I was right.
I know. Vindication. It was just so exciting. And I still have a picture of just me just smiling on, like... And when you get your socket, it's like this clear plastic before they like reinforce it with carbon fiber tape and all that sort of stuff. And I was just like my glass slippers, you know, of like freedom. Just how hard I worked that moment.
That's my new nickname for you, Cinderella.
Cinderella boy.
Yes.
Your current prosthetics, are they your first, or have they evolved with you as you become more capable?
Yeah. Yep, very much so. My current pair right now is I've been rocking this style of foot for about 4 years now, but they definitely, you have to work your way up to them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually love prosthetic technical consulting now, and just all the different ins and outs and the values at play when it comes to prosthetic feet.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
Really cool. You move so well on them, Matt. It's like,
thank you.
It's incredible. I stood back over the course of the weekend, in my role there, and just kind of, I watch everybody, but I watched you. And I'm like, man, he moves so good. It's just incredible. And you're a great athlete too. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The yoke event over on the law enforcement range there at Utah.
That was fun.
I thought that was just killer. You really showed what you're capable of there. So that was super impressive. Of course, my battle
that one,
up on the ridge.
I was sweating that one. Man, I was sweating all of them.
Yeah. How did that the canyon run treat you once you got down into some of those long drops into the bottom of the canyon? I couldn't go with you down there because I had to maintain myself up top.
The tough part was that extra weight
of the rock.
Like there's a spot in my prosthetics where my sockets grab my leg and hold me, and the extra weight of those bags was pushing me through that spot. Mm-hmm. So I was starting to bottom out. Mm-hmm. And so that was actually the more difficult of the part. Like I wanted to make sure I didn't overheat myself because my body, I'm in a wetsuit basically up to my hips with my sleeves keeping my legs on, and then my silicone liner protecting me from the carbon fiber. Those all trap heat. Is
there a pump system that creates suction or a vacuum? I have a buddy of ours, Josh, who lost his leg, and at the ankle of his prosthetic, there's basically like an air pump, and as he steps forward and puts weight on the ankle section, it creates like positive suction on the stump. And so, how is yours set up?
No, those are really cool systems. There's 3 different components of a prosthesis. There is the suspension. There is the style. Oh, man, really. I know this. And then there's the foot, and then there's like the socket. Mm-hmm. So the suspension is how you keep your leg attached to your body. And there is a physical component, like a pin lock system. And then there's a vacuum, and then there's suction. And I always get vacuum and suction mixed up. Vacuum, think of it not like a vacuum cleaner, but like the vacuum of space. Right. And that's what I use. Okay. So my socket pushes all the air out, and then my liner actually seals me inside of it. Mm-hmm. So as long as air doesn't get introduced into the system, there's like a negative pressure in there.
Yeah, yep, got it.
Your buddy, that's suction, I'm pretty sure, and that's where there's active. And you can get like battery-powered ones, and those are super strong. Wow. But the system he uses is really nice. My problem, I had that, it kept squeaking on me, and we kept cycling it, and then I went like 2 weeks waiting for a new pump, and I just got used to not having it.
Yeah.
Josh has had trouble with his.
He has had trouble with it.
Trying to do
with physical activity
and stuff.
Yep.
Hey Matt, this is Mike. Question: when you're at like the tactical games, and you hear people complaining about everything that you get to do, and you have these extracurricular things to consider, what does it feel like when you hear other people complaining?
Oh, my legs are so tired.
Oh my gosh, my legs burn. I didn't sleep well last night.
Super funny, and I have to like rub it in my friend's nose, where my buddy was limping, and I was like, "Hey, are you okay?" And he just glares at me. He's like, "I'm not going to tell you." And I'm like, "What's wrong?" He's like, "Nah, man." I'm like, "Dude, I can see you're limping. What's wrong?" He's like, "Dude, I rolled my ankle really bad, and I feel really stupid about it complaining to you." And I'm like, "Look, I have broken many ankles in the past 10 years, and every time I do, I call a company in Iceland, and they overnight me a new ankle. And I take an Allen wrench, and I swap it out, and I'm good to go." You got taping, icing, elevation, physical therapy, all that stuff. Like, I do not envy you one bit.
Yeah,
I did the Baton. I did the Baton Death March in New Mexico, and it's 26 miles of marching through the deserts of New Mexico.
Well, that sounds horrible.
And
And you did it on purpose?
Well,
twice.
Is it meant to replicate the?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've done the one in New Mexico.
The Baton Death March that U.S. soldiers were forced. It was forced marching to their deaths, and it was brutal and horrible through the worst jungles while they were all diseased with dysentery and all types of other terrible amoebas and
everything that happens to you when you're hanging out in the jungle.
Basically, they were vomiting on each other, diarrhea, dying, and just being left there. It was a brutal, terrible death march.
So you did this in New
I've
Mexico?
done the New Mexico National Guard was deployed to the Philippines to reinforce Baton.
Okay.
And I don't know anyways, the reason they were deployed is because most of them were Hispanic. And so that way Japanese observers watching the Philippines wouldn't watch this massive influx of white people in the Philippines. Like, it was a strategic reason for using the New Mexico National Guard.
Wow.
But when those islands were invaded, they lost an entire generation of sons because of that. So that's why they host it there.
Okay.
So I've done the one in New Mexico, which is 26.2 miles, but I've also gone to the Philippines and followed that exact trail of the 100 miles.
Incredible.
It's 100 miles.
Oh. And so the first 10 miles, I'm doing it. Everyone's passing me, and they're like, "You're so inspirational. You're awesome. Thanks for being out here. Good job." And then, like, mile 14, 15, 16, I'm seeing them at the aid station with their feet, like, being degloved because they're not changing their socks. And I'm like, "You're not going to walk right for a week." And I've got, like, a $1,000 silicone liner sock protecting my leg,
Have you ever seen the movie Army of Darkness? It's an older one.
Oh, wait, I don't think I have.
Oh, never mind.
That is an old
So you motor on by these people whose feet are all jacked up, and you're like, meep, meep. You give them a little beep, and you just keep going.
Got carbon fiber Achilles. Bye, guys.
That's great.
Do you have to hump your own water and stuff?
No, they make it's like a big training exercise for Army medics in dealing with hot weather injuries. It's a big fundraising event. They have water trucks. There's different categories you can do of it. You can do like military heavy where you have a ruck and everything like that, or you can do civilian heavy where you get to wear shorts and a heavy backpack, or you can do a light division as well.
So, Matt, you get now you're on 2 prosthetics.
Yes.
How long does it take for you to start really turning things around and, like, you become the go-getter that we're listening to?
So it was funny because the reason I wanted my amputation on Friday is because Friday would be 6 months prior to that same snowboarding event. And I wanted to have 6 months of recovery. So they were like, just wait. I was like, here's the thing,
I have a goal.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, you were really thinking that out.
Yeah.
So did you do the thing 6 months later?
I did. I went there, and now having 2 prosthetic feet, just discovering the toe side turn on a snowboard. Man, I knew it was going to be good. I just didn't think it was going to be that good.
That's great.
And that's when they started talking about, like, Paralympics, and I was like, wait, this is an actual sport? And they're like, yeah, dude, like, this is a Paralympic event. And I was like, where in Colorado do I have to move to where I could, like, train and do that? And they were like, actually, have you ever been to Utah?
You're like,
oh, my. They're like, yeah, Utah's the best place to go. And I was like,
wait a minute.
Wait a second.
I joined the Army to see the world.
Back to Utah.
Get my ass handed to me. Put myself back together. And now I'm moving back to Utah. And, like, Salt Lake City of all places. I tell people I was truly worried there's going to be like the Eye of Sauron above the Mormon temple, looking for vagabonds and deploying missionaries to come rescue my soul, I moved out here. Well, I did a quick trip out here and just fell absolutely in love with it, with the program out here, the teams. And, I moved back in, I want to say 2016. 2016, 2015, and just been here ever since.
Okay.
And so, you're married.
And that's where I was going to say, where does Alexa fit into this?
Yeah, everybody just slow the hell down. No, Alexa and I have been together years. She's amazing. So I did almost 4 years on the Paralympic path.
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah, just doing border cross snowboarding.
He didn't have time for chicks then, because he was...
Yeah, right?
Oh, he was probably dodging chicks at every...
Oh, right? And it was just truly incredible. The best part about the Paralympic snowboarding side of things was there was no money in it. There was no real support, but it was still like an international sport. Okay. And so, going from the mountains of Afghanistan, the streets of Iraq, to now getting to stand at like the top of a mountain in New Zealand with Japanese amputee snowboarders, the Brits, people from the Netherlands, like nobody really understands each other's language, but at the same time, like all of us had a really bad day. And now we're all here.
There's got to be like a purity to that, right? When there's not a ton of money involved with it, everybody is there for very personal and powerful reasons, I would imagine.
Yep. It's like the only thing I want, as bad as I want to win, is to see you succeed, because I know what you're through.
Yeah.
I mean, a Wheaties box would be cool too.
Oh yeah.
Just saying.
Right?
Now that sport, what is it? Downhill? Is there jumps? Is it just slaloming? What's the particular sport?
So border cross is the only head-to-head winter Paralympic sport. Every other winter Paralympic sport is time trial.
Oh, okay.
And it's also the only winter sport that demands you use a prosthetic.
Huh.
Okay.
Right. So had I picked skiing, you're not allowed to use prosthetic legs in skiing.
What?
So, what helps separate?
Categories? I mean, it seems like
they have so many categories, and they're all very confusing. But they just have so many more athletes. But as a bi-lateral, I would have to sit in a mono ski, one of those cool little ski rigs that I would have to use that. I wouldn't be allowed to use a prosthetic leg.
Okay.
And I don't view, what kind of helps separates me for others is like I don't look at my prosthetic legs as my disability. Like I was disabled, and then I earned the ability to use my legs. Like they represent my freedom. And so I take them like I don't wear them when I feel like it. Like they are a part of my body.
Yeah.
They are my force multipliers. And so to surrender that was just not really an option for me.
No, you don't go through all the things as you went through to
take them off.
Have to sacrifice them back.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, like I would imagine it takes something, looking at something like your prosthetics and like as a negative of look what happened to me versus like grateful, just being incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have the prosthetics. Like, is it something like that, a complete reversal of the attitude?
Absolutely. Just again, I laugh so hard when I just think of like 300-pound Matt just like wheeling himself out around in a wheelchair, just being like, I'm so glad I didn't lose my legs. Because then I'd be a cripple.
Yeah.
Just like...
yeah.
Oh, man.
And I even made that joke when I would just crash so hard on the course and just be like, man, I really wish I had amputated my legs. Or like, a mile 58 to 100 miles in the Philippines, I'm just like, man, I really wish I wouldn't have amputated my legs,
It's cool, though. Like, you did the process where you decided at a certain point, and so you might feel differently about it now had you not really tried. So at least you tried, and it just didn't work out. And so now you have
absolutely
a cooler route. So.
Yeah.
Well, it's so cool just to have that is now like very, very, I don't want to say common or popular, but for lack of a better term, popular for people to like realize, I don't know a successful limb salvage who's not on pain management meds.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know like a successful amputee who is on pain management meds.
Right.
Interesting.
You know?
What would you say? I know we're not at the end of your story yet, but what would you say to somebody right now who is either looking on the on the back end of this, looking at having to going through something they don't think they can do, or that's just a head fuck, or they're in the middle of it, or the other side of it? What would you say to yourself?
I really enjoy getting to mentor, you know, and again, going back to that, the pamphlets they tried to show me in the magazines and the TED Talks and the like, look at all these inspirational people, you know, and I just asked, like, who did 21-year-old Matt need to walk through that door?
Mm.
Yeah.
Like, who did I just need to just... And that's what gets me out of bed every day. Is like who Matt needed.
Did you have somebody during that period of time that you personally found to be inspirational to you? Because people always present people to you. This person's inspirational. I get to decide who inspires me, not you. Did you have somebody that was that for you?
Joe Cap. He's a really rad dude, and I did get to meet him, and his story definitely moved me. First Ranger to ever go back to combat operations after losing his leg. Super just badass dude. Kill you with your own thumb and make it look like an accident. But again, he was just like, it's such a tier above me. Like, I was just a grunt. I was just a leg. I wasn't anything special, you know? And so, no, I was very, very hard to reach through anything like that. And, like, it took literally just shoving me on the side of a mountain, surrounded by it. Like, that was the only thing that could really break through that barrier at that time for me.
And hitting rock bottom. I mean, you had that pile of things all at once.
You're dealing with
Rock bottom and time.
Time is huge.
So when I do mentor people now, it's funny because there's 3 different obstacles. It's either the providers don't want to do the amputation, the individual doesn't want the amputation, or the individual's family doesn't want the amputation. And then when it's the individual, when they don't want it, it's usually more often than not they feel like they've invested so much time in trying to save it. Like 2 years was tough for me. 7, 8, 9 years these people have gone through.
Whoa.
Just living out of those same orange bottles I did.
And it's not like you, and it's a decision that's permanent, right? It's not like, well, if I change my mind, I can always put it back on.
It's always, I could always amputate it later, but let me just try this.
Right.
Let me just try that, you know?
Surviving versus living, too, I'd imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
It sounds like so many things. Gambling.
It's not my decision to make for them, but I'm just like, okay, I can't tell you that that's the right place to go, but I can help you realize where you are isn't working. There's no sustainability where you are. Is this the parent you want to be to your kids? You know, I know that feral anger from fear when you grab that pill bottle and it's not as full as you thought it was. And you're going into a long weekend. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do when that methadone runs out? And you know that pain's waiting right around the corner for you. You know, do you want your kids to see that as their parent? You know, is where you are, is it sustainable? You know, so again, I can't tell you where to go. I can just help you realize where you are is not working, and you got to do something. And if you have a team, work with them, but there has to be some timelines on stuff. You have to have lines in the sand, and just kind of help frame it better. Like, no, there isn't always time to try this. There isn't always time to try that. You know, and just kind of help them reach that decision themselves.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah, that's, you know, it leaves the 3 of us sitting here looking at each other speechless. And it's like, God, the only, you know, the handful of people that are in a position you're in to make that kind of difference. You're the guy that maybe the only person that this person that you're mentoring can hear. They can hear.
Right.
that has a legitimate voice.
Yeah, legitimacy of the voice, or like, nobody knows what the hell's I'm going through. It's like, well, yeah, maybe Matt does.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful, and I've been able to help well over a dozen people just kind of reach that decision, and every one of them, oh my gosh, I mean, the things they've been able to accomplish, it's incredible. But I mean, I'm a firm believer there's nothing more powerful than the human spirit. But just when you see it in these cages of these orange bottles and these all operating rooms, it's brutal. It's really brutal. And I definitely take a lot of joy in just being who Matt needed.
Are you still hitting the slopes?
Oh yeah, this past season was a bit weird. No, it was really cool. I was enjoying the snowboarding circuit so much. The people, I mean, it was, but at the same time, like, we kind of got what we wanted, because now these kids are developing cancer as they go through puberty and getting their legs amputated at Shriner and going through chemo and coming out and getting this incredible technology that's been developed thanks to the world of snowboarding and the Paralympic section of that. And they are just incredible, absolutely incredible. And so I was doing okay. Like, I was like gunning for a spot on the team. And then this kid, Noah Elliott, came along. I call him a kid. He might be 21 now. And I threw down like a 45-second run. And I was like, good job. And he came along and did like a 19.
What?
Oh.
I mean, at that point, you can't even be mad.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, if it was a second or two, you're like,
it's not like a
I could have
10th.
beat him.
Yeah.
19,
No.
never mind. You win.
Just like,
Wow.
I mean, at that point, you're just depressed, Like, you just knocked me out of the Paralympics, and I can't even be mad.
I can't even be mad at him. I'm going to punch that kid.
Man. And so it's just so cool, a little bittersweet, but I'm like, I can stay at this, but I mean, let's be honest, you're paying for friends at this point. And so that was another tough one to, like, hang up that jersey. I mean, the thought of going to the Paralympics and wearing my flag, again, really, really meant a lot to me. But, again, still working on this journey,
For sure.
And just what that world did to me and the lessons I drew from it, and the importance of looking where you want to go, and just being around people who are in it, just to see how far they can go.
Yeah,
it's very powerful.
And there's so much beauty in that little section of your journey, where it took you, who it connected you to, the doors that it opened for you. It opened your eyes. Without that, the road may look quite a bit different. So whoever that person was that was so inconsiderate that day to say, have you ever thought about downhill skiing? You're like, hey, shut up, asshole.
Heather knows who she is. Heather's done that to a lot of people.
Yeah.
We're all better for it.
Yeah, man, I'm glad that she came into your life that day and asked you that inconsiderate question.
Horrible.
Because it definitely springboarded you, so to speak, into a new life and into other people's life, but I think that's where you become the force multiplier as well, because you've got a dozen people now that you've mentored onto their journey, and hopefully they do the same for a dozen others in their wake. That's great.
So when it just comes to my personal mantras and everything, and just the story of like 20-year-old Matt, in Afghanistan, team leader, former sniper, now in charge of 2 240s, and just leading these men with families back home through the mountains of Afghanistan. Like, I just felt like the very tip of the spear, and willing to do anything it takes for the people I love. Mm-hmm. And then to just go from that to just flat on my back, just having a commode emptied, not remembering faces, and just being so weak, and just that rebuilding, just figuring out who I really, learning to learn who I really am, and letting Sergeant Matthew Melancon go so that I can become so much more, you know?
It's like a tip of the spear in the internal sense.
Right.
And along the way, though, you found love again.
Yes.
You went through a divorce in maybe the worst time that it could possibly come around, and it was another nail in the coffin of Sergeant Matthew Melancon. But I met somebody who's crazy about you in Utah. I saw her earlier when we chatted this morning.
She's floating around here somewhere.
So how did Alexa come into your life?
Before we get on that,
yeah,
it's you know, and just I see people post these like little cryptic things when they're going through a tough time, and it's like keep going because you have so many people to prove wrong. And I'm like, it doesn't take much to prove people wrong.
Somebody's talking behind your back. They're there for a reason or something. Yeah.
Whereas, like, I mean, all you have to do is just be this much better than they expected, and you proved them wrong, you know? Whereas I've just had so many beautiful, powerful people work so hard, betting that I could be someone, betting that their labor would be worth it. I mean, when I say I was like 22 surgeries, yeah, those were tough for me, but that orthopedic surgeon, he spent over 12 hours over me, you know, just brutal. My physical therapist and just my prosthetist, all these people behind me working to see my success and just believing in me. And I just have every one of them to prove right.
That's nice.
And that's what I love. That's what keeps me going. And just, you know, I'm a man who's the sum of his parts, and all those people are just such a big part of my story. And I just love people. And I think that's really what my superpower is. Like, people can tell that I just love people.
Yep, I could tell. I could tell in your voice. And Jessica and Mike can't see you, but they can tell.
And right as the pandemic was shutting everything down, I just saw this wonderful young lady on social media, started following me and scrolling through her posts and just really liking the cut of her jive, and just reached out to her. And one T27 taco date, a little taqueria here in Salt Lake City. And it's been amazing ever since. And now she's moved in with me in my beautiful house in Heber, and
awesome.
It was a lot of fun, her getting to see that side of me. She works for the VA, and she definitely has an appreciation of veterans. But her just getting to see me at that tactical games and understanding like the pride of the infantry, it was really cool.
Yeah, she was really proud of you. I was, like I said, I watched you, and I could see her watching you, and there was not a more proud person to watch you out there run than her. So that was amazing. There was a lot going on out there at that moment. Pretty cool.
Thank you. And that was definitely my favorite part of the tactical games, was that reminiscent feeling of the Paralympic snowboarding community, where it is just like, yes, we want to succeed so bad, but the only thing comparable is like, I want to see you succeed as well. Yeah. And that's what I just really, I mean, it was just, the air was so thick of it. I loved it.
What's next up for you, Matt?
So next, again, I'm just enjoying this beautiful home up in here in Heber. I was doing an office management job in Salt Lake City, but that's not really a thing anymore. Mm-hmm. So I'm not really sure what the future holds for me. My dream is definitely to always be put down my own grassroots foundation where I help disabled veterans get the correct prosthetic gear. Just those 4 years on the Paralympic circuit, it was drinking out of the fire hose, trying to learn how to be an amputee, be an amputee snowboarder, and also how to be a snowboarder, and then learn to race them. It was just like those four things had to, like, I couldn't just focus on one and then focus on the other. So I really love to just take that prosthetic technical consulting and like apply that. Did I lose audio?
No, I was telling them they need to come over here so that you can see them.
Oh.
Because you can't see them. She can see you because we've got a camera monitor going on over here, so they can see you. But I think that it'd be nice to put a face to.
Hello. Oh, you guys are so cute. Hi, I'm Matt.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'd love to do that. I would also love to just get. I went on a lot of hunting trips in Texas, and those are a lot of fun.
What are you hunting? What are you hunting in Texas?
We did an actual axis hunt, a whitetail hunt, but I guess I come from a long line of vegetarians and hunter-gatherers, like less hunters, more gatherers, because I've not once have I ever seen the animal I'm hunting. That's some sort of
you didn't see any axis deer
upon my family.
in Texas? They're supposed to be very abundant in Texas, the axis
Dude,
deer.
I went on a hog hunt in Texas, and I didn't see a hog. Like,
what?
How does that happen?
They cause like $70 billion in damage a year. You couldn't see one?
We baited that property so bad. Like,
Matt.
it probably looked like Coachella after we left. And yet, while I was there, not a single hog. So I was like, I just want to shoot my gun. That's all. I just want to hike and shoot.
I'm taking notes.
And hunting, trying to blend those two.
Never hunt with Matt Melancon.
Yeah. Maybe your prosthetics are squeaky again, you know?
Yeah, you get some squeakiness back. Well, you can... We could show you some alligators down here if you want to come down to South Florida. I know that you guys have some.
And we have hogs too.
Friends, we have hogs too. Friends in what was it, Sarasota? I think.
Yes, my bestie is down there in Sarasota.
If you make your way down to Sarasota, I went to Sarasota 2 weeks ago to visit a rifle manufacturer up there, and it's only like it was like an 80-minute drive, hour and a half long drive.
Yeah.
So I'll shoot up and have lunch with you guys, or come on down and we'll treat you to.
No, I would
some
love
range time.
Oh, that'd be fun.
So I'm really excited. There's another bi-lateral amputee out in Arizona, and his Instagram is Angry Orchard, and he works for a little company called Haley Strategic.
Oh, just a small company called Haley Strategic.
Yeah, they make like holsters, I think, and like flashlight buttons.
Yeah.
So if somebody. I wanted to do a head-to-head with him in the October tactical game.
Nice.
And I'm hoping he can find like a firearms instructor. Like I know as a Marine, he probably learned to shoot like 350 yards or something like that.
There's no good instructors at Haley Strategic. So
I don't think.
Those guys.
Craigslist?
They're all studs over there.
I know. So I would love to do a head-to-head with him out there.
That'd be great.
Just training up for that. Lots of
awesome.
I got some really good takeaways from the one here in Utah.
That's great.
And I'm just really excited to apply them.
How have you made any headway on the foundation? Do you have a skeleton built out for how this foundation is going to look?
Again, I want it, but at the same time, I'm just trusting that process of it. You know, being awarded this home was a big part of that. It's just once you turn on something like that and you start gaining support, it's important that you manage it correctly because you don't get like a do-over on that. And as passionate as I am, I already like low-key do that. I love visiting other people and bringing my prosthetics and helping make sure they got their set up correctly and making sure their bindings are set up correctly to allow the prosthetics to move. I'm working with the prosthetic manufacturer of my foot, the company called BioDapt. Their stuff is amazing. Mike Schultz is an incredible human being. We're working together and kind of creating the next generation of adaptive prosthetics, like impact prosthetics. The cool thing about snowboarding is it took us in the opposite direction of what insurance was taking prosthetics. So like walking and running have the same values. It's about capturing energy as efficiently as possible and returning it as efficiently as possible. And so we've just seen so much gains in that industry with like running legs and walking legs. They're just incredible. However, if you want range of motion, that is in the opposite direction.
Interesting.
The range of motion is the like giving up of efficiency. And so for snowboarding, the last thing we want is to do like a massive jump, land, and then have carbon fiber be like, oh, here's all this energy we found.
Yeah, and then give it back, yeah.
Exactly. So he's been working with box shocks and creating these really cool hydraulic ankles and knees that give us incredible range of motion.
Amazing.
And so, it's worth checking out his Instagram. He is a phenomenal human being. Monster Mike Schultz.
Monster Mike
Schultz.
We're pulling his Instagram now. And
he's a beast of a man.
For those who want to keep up with you and your endeavors on Instagram, you are at Mad Matt
337.
337.
Or just if you search Matt Melancon.
Yes, there's lots of handsome pictures of you out there speaking and now shooting at the tactical games.
Yes. Oh, Rico did so good by me. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Roe is really good. Oh, speaking of Recon Roe, shit. He told me to say something to you and that it would crack you up.
Oh.
The wrong brother died.
Oh, wrong son died.
There he goes. He's going to listen to this.
If you haven't seen Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, you're missing out on life.
Oh, is that what it's from? Yeah, I was on the phone with him. I think it was yesterday. I was on the phone with him, and I told him, I said, hey, Matt Melancon's going to be on. He goes, oh, man, say to him, the wrong brother died. I was like, okay. Okay.
No, so much fun. And just really excited to see where these tactical games go. Again, I'm really excited about them.
Cool.
And just being a bigger advocate in that area. And just kind of seeing what this new world looks like, you know? Everybody loves learning about history. We just went through a lot of history.
That's right.
And it's a very interesting future.
I can tell you personally that you are an inspiration to me. I found you instantly inspirational to me the moment that we met. Your smile, the way you go about things. I've been thinking about it since we met. I'm like, how is he so chipper? How is he so happy? How is his take on life is so positive? It took all those things that you endured and went through, and I think the world of you, man. And I absolutely appreciate your time today. We played a bunch of phone tag, and I look forward to keeping track and keeping up with you and watching you build this foundation out and grow it. And I'm super proud to call you a friend and to have been able to see you at your first tactical games go after it. That was amazing. I'm super impressed, and I think the world of you, dude.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Again, this is a great opportunity. I really appreciate you, and I'm really excited, and I really would love to get out there and do some great training prior to that, because, it was thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And when you guys get down to South Florida, please give me some heads up so that I can either plan to be up there to at least grab some lunch with you, or roll out the red carpet for you guys to come down here to Naples, and we'll spend some time. We'll get Evoke Studio out here with some cameras.
Let's do that.
We'll do some fun stuff.
Okay,
all right.
Awesome.
Matt, thank you so much, brother. And I'll talk to you in the next couple days too, man.
Okay, great.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.